Good morning. Our theme for today is walk in the newness of life. Several weeks ago, we had the privilege of witnessing Jameson Walker's blessing on Zoom, thanks to Zoom, because we were here and he was far away. But Jameson is indeed literally walking in the newness of life because he's just a few months old. Every day for Jameson is a new experience with new things to explore as he continues his new life on this earth. The same is true for us. The choices that we make every day determine the kind of new life that we experience each day. From birth on, there are many facets of life that we pass through. Jameson is brand new in this world, and he's had to learn to roll over. He'll be learning to crawl. Before long, he'll be learning to walk. And before you know it, he's going to be entering a strange new environment where his parents are going to take him to school and leave him where he doesn't know anybody. And he's going to spend lots of years in those schools learning and developing his mind. And following the school years, and they go very quickly, for those of us my age realize how quickly, the school years are behind you, and then it's either time to go on to the university or to get a job. If you go to the university, when those days are over, then it's time to start a career. Miranda has been walking that path of life in the last year. Last August, she finished graduate school, and in September, she started her new career, her new job in accounting as an auditor. Not only that, but she started another newness of life because she moved out of mom and dad's house into her own apartment and started figuring out how to live independently on her own. So those have been newnesses of life for her during this last year. And I think she's thriving as far as I can tell. And before she knows it, she doesn't realize it now, but those years of career are going to be over, and it's going to be time to retire. And then life goes on and on. You know, I'm in the retirement stage, but life isn't over. It's still going on. There's more to life after retirement. I hope there's a lot more. The path of life is not always a straight and narrow one. Sometimes it's curved, or it takes twists and turns that you did not expect. Sometimes the seas of life are nice and calm and smooth, but sometimes the seas of life are rough and bumpy. And we've all probably had both kinds of those experiences in our lives. When we moved to Macomb, Illinois in August of 1973, we were 25 miles away from the closest church. We had to drive 25 miles to Carthage, Illinois for church each Sunday. The first Sunday that we walked into church in Carthage, the first people who greeted us were Rick and Kay Bunch and Kirby and Amy Bunch, their two daughters. Now, Kathleen was about 2 months away from turning 3 years old at that time. Kirby was just a little bit older than Kathleen, and Amy was just a little bit younger than Kathleen. But what we did not know that first day that we met them was that that family was traveling through rough seas. We soon learned very quickly that Kirby K, as sometimes we called her, Kirby was suffering from leukemia, and she was undergoing treatment in Iowa City, Iowa, at the University Hospital there for the leukemia. Now, 50 years ago, the treatment for leukemia was not as successful as it is today. So her future was very uncertain at that point. But fortunately, the treatment that they gave her worked. And slowly she began to regain her health and became a new person, one that we recognized because she was having a hard time when we first met her. She chose a career path of teaching, and she has been teaching in the public schools of Oklahoma for years, and she's never had any reoccurrence of the leukemia. Thank the Lord. But we were just so pleased to see how she recovered and that she has had such a healthy life since that time. If we go back to the book of Exodus in the Old Testament, we find that God heard the despairing cries of the slaves in Egypt, and he resolved to free them from the captivity that they were living under as slaves under Pharaoh. And to do that, God recruited Moses for the human task of emancipation. They emerged from that situation under Moses with a new social life in which they were no longer controlled by Pharaoh and his quotas that he had for producing bricks every day. God used Moses to give those people a new life. But as you recall, and I know you know this story, the path was not a straight and narrow one. They wandered for a long time, and as they did a lot of complaining to Moses. They didn't like what he was doing, and they were sure that perhaps they would have been better off to stay in Egypt under the slavery of Pharaoh. They just weren't convinced that their life was getting any better. But Moses kept going to the Lord kept giving assurance, lead them on, and fortunately they followed them, and he did lead them to a new life. In the 5th chapter of Mark, we find another story of walking in the newness of life. And this is a story of Jairus seeking a healing for his daughter. Starting with verse 21, when Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him, and he was by the sea. Then one of the leaders of the synagogue named Jairus came, and when he saw the Lord, he fell at his feet and pleaded with him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live." So he, Jesus, went with him, Jairus, and while they were still talking, some people came from the synagogue leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why bother the teacher further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the synagogue leader, "Do not be afraid, only believe." He allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they had come to the synagogue leader's house, he saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. When they entered the house, he said to them, "Why do you make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead. The child is sleeping." And they laughed at him. Then he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went into where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Little girl, get up." And immediately she stood up and began to walk about. She was 12 years of age. At this, they were overcome with amazement. Strictly, Jesus said to them, "Do not tell anyone this." And he told them to get something for the little girl to eat. Now, new life comes to many different kinds of people in many different ways who encounter Jesus. New life for the daughter of Jairus meant that she was released from the terrible disease that she had. Her new life was restoration of the healthy existence that she had had before she became so ill. Imagine all the experiences she was able to have after that time. From then on, the parents, I'm convinced, did not follow Jesus's order. I'm convinced that they told everybody they saw about what had happened, because I'm sure they were filled with this, with so much joy, there was no way they could contain it within themselves. And I'm sure his name would have, Jesus's name would have been praised over and over and over. And there would be new life for those who had heard the story of Jairus's daughter. They had seen her dead, and now she was alive. Their lives would be changed because of what Jesus had done. I remember the impact that Kirby's healing had on me as a young mother with a daughter about the same age as Kirby. It made a very, very big impact on my life. And all who knew her and loved her sang praises and thanksgiving when she was finally released from treatment in Iowa City. And now 50 years later, that experience still impacts my life. That's why I'm convinced that those parents did not follow Jesus's orders. Another story of walking in the newness of life is also found in the 5th chapter of Mark. And this is the story of the woman who was healed by touching the hem of Jesus's cloak. Mark 5, starting with verse 25. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years. She had suffered under many physicians and spent all that she had, and she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his hem. She said, "But if I can just touch his hem, I will be made well." Immediately, her flow of blood stopped, and she felt in her body that her disease was gone. Immediately, aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my cloak?" And the disciples said to him, "You see all of these people pressing on you. How could you say, 'Who touched me?'" He looked all around to see who could have done it. And the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell before him and told him the whole truth. Jesus said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed from your disease." This experience meant the woman found new life and was probably accepted back into her community, where no doubt she had been shunned because she was considered unclean. New life meant that she had the possibility of regaining financial ability. Remember, the scripture said that she spent all that she had to seek a cure. Jesus offered her new life and treated her with regard. Remember, he called her daughter. And there would be new life for all who witnessed her healing. Those who had known her as unclean or sick now knew her as well and clean. And this experience would evoke amazement and would be told and retold, I'm sure, many times in all of the lives who witnessed it. Lives had been changed by what Jesus did for others. These passages give us a good understanding of some of the characteristics of Jesus. They hint of the new life that's available to us. They depict a Messiah who would not turn anyone away. We can come to Jesus anytime that we want and be assured that he will bless us with mercy and graciousness. The illustrations that I have shared with you so far have all had positive endings, but we must not forget that there are many people in the world today who are walking in a newness of life that is not looking very positive at the moment. Climate refugees are those people whose lives, livelihood, and living environments have been destroyed by climate disasters, causing them to have to leave their countries and move to a new country as a refugee in order to continue to live. They are the invisible poor who are high risk no matter where they are. The United Nations High Commissioner report estimates that annually 21.5 million refugees have resulted from climate disasters since 2008. Think about that. 21.5 million annually are losing where they live because of climate disasters and climate change. At our recent World Conference in Independence in April, there was a resolution that was overwhelmingly passed to observe a Refugee Day once a year in our church. The United Nations already observes that day once a year. And our church will start observing that next year on June the 20th. In the meantime, between now and then, there are a group of people in our church who are going to be creating some materials, some educational materials that will be made in multiple languages to help raise the awareness of climate change in our world. But let me tell you, we do not need to wait until next year to start addressing climate change. We can start right now if we haven't already started. So start talking about the issues of climate change to other people that you see, and be willing to share what you are doing personally if you have already started making some adjustments in your lifestyle to combat climate change. It's an issue that we must not ignore. It impacts all of us, and we will all be affected sometime or later, no matter what we do, unless we start addressing it. Doctrine and Covenants, section 164.5, tells us it is imperative for us to become part of a new creation. By taking on the life and mind of Christ, you increasingly view yourselves and others from a changed perspective. Former ways of defining people by economic status, social class, sex, gender, or ethnicity no longer are primary. Through the gospel of Christ, a new community of tolerance, reconciliation, unity and diversity, and love is being born as a visible sign of the coming reign of God. End of quote. Many years ago, Margaret Mead wrote some words that are as appropriate today as they were years and years ago when she wrote them, and I want to share those with you. She said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Even though we are small in number, let us be a group of thoughtful, committed citizens who make walking in the newness of life a positive experience for everyone, not just a few.